Hey, did you guys know you were coming for a ghost story? I gotta plug this in. I'm sitting outside tonight because it is a beautiful night, and I was reminded today, about a lot of things, and I'd like to talk about that. You know, it's really terribly dark out here. Did you know that? No. Okay. My husband is actually sitting out here with me while I do a live video. He made me promise that we could have, hey cat, he made me promise that he would not have to be on the video and that we could have music in the background. So those two things are happening. So I did the coolest thing today. And if you are with any direct selling company and have an opportunity to do this, I would recommend that you do it. So I went to a old folks home today. Not a nursing home per se, but like a, what would you call that? A retirement community, maybe? So what it is it's like one of those places where people, they kind of start off in like an apartment or an assisted living of some kind, and then they, if they need like skilled nursing care or additional assistance for assisted living, then they can like transition to that very easily in the same facility. They don't have to move. So it was a place like that. And have you ever been over to Cottage Grove, Eric?
Yeah.
It's huge. It's huge. It's, what do you think? There's probably 100 apartments there?
That's a good question, but it is very big.
Very big. So there were maybe 45 women at this breakfast this morning, and they were, so they had breakfast at like 8:30, and then right about 9 o'clock, I got to present a little bit on LimeLight. And my daughters went around with hand cream, 40 Cure cream, and cream of the crop. Hey Tina. And they put some lotion on each person's hand. My daughters are 7 and 9, and they were so good, and I think they have 45 new grandmothers today. So they put hand cream on everybody's hands, and we talked about the importance of good skincare and taking good care of your skin. And then they were really interested in learning Alcone's story. So I was telling Alcone's story, and I was thinking about like how a woman in her 70s, 80s, and 90s would want to hear that story. So I talked about the eyelashes that the Alcone company used to sell on Broadway way back when, and makeup and cake makeup, and it was kind of fun talking about kind of like the history of makeup and how Alcone has kind of been a really big part of that, the history of modern makeup. It was really fun. But then we talked about some of the products that we have, and we talked about our skincare, and we talked about, and one of the things that I said to them, I said, you know, I'm going to tell you our story about the history of our skincare, and it's probably going to sound very familiar to you. And when I said that, I thought, I wonder how many women in this room have had breast cancer, or their daughters have had breast cancer, or whatever. So we talked about chemical-free skincare, and we were kind of going through the catalog, kind of one page at a time, talking about the different products. And of course, Pomifera oil, One Drop Wonder oil came up. And I started to tell the story to them about how it happened, and afterwards, and how Pomifera oil and One Drop Wonder oil got into our line. And afterwards, I realized how, if I would have had my way from the beginning, that never would have happened. And let me explain why. You know, I have this phone plugged in, but I don't have the cord plugged in. What did you say? Yeah. Let me do that real quick here. Okay, so, hey Debbie. So I'm trying to not get too much shadow on me because we don't have very much light out here, and we don't want to put too much light because we'd be eaten alive by bugs. So, okay, so let me tell you why, if it would have been up to me, we would never have One Drop Wonder in our line. And what I want you to hear from this, what I want you to hear, the lesson I want you to learn is that there are things that you're supposed to do in this life, and you're supposed to be where you are, and you're supposed to do the things that you're being led, the path that you're being led down is probably the path you're supposed to go down. And even when you kick and scream all the way there. And I'm going to be really, really honest. Really, really honest. So, this story goes back to before I ever knew about LimeLight. And I was probably learning about LimeLight at about this time from Kathy Aragon in some makeup forums that I was a part of on Facebook. And it was really, really, you know, I was learning about LimeLight from very far away. I was kind of peeking in and kind of doing a little bit of some creepy stalking, but I wasn't very serious about it. And at the same time, the director of the cosmetology school that I had gone to, what did we decide now? That was 10 years ago? In 2007, 9 years ago. So the director of the cosmetology school was kind of nagging me to come into his office and meet with him. So at the time, I was a writer for a website called About.com. About.com is like a conglomeration of experts, they call them. We used to be called guides, then we were called experts on a subject. So if you wrote for About.com, you were an expert on a subject, and I was the women's hairstyles expert, and I wrote about women's hairstyles for like from 2008 until 2015. So long story short, I'm writing about hairstyles. I'm writing about I was doing like reviews on hair products and like how to get the look, kind of stuff like that. And he knew I was doing all that, and they were really proud of me at that school. Hey Ray, good to see you, sweetie. So he had asked me would I come in and do an interview with this guy that was making shampoo and conditioner in Iowa, and I live in Iowa. And this is where I'm going to be real honest with you. I was like, good grief. And here's why. I was the kind of person that I never wrote negative reviews. Hey, Jenny. I never wrote negative reviews, and if I had a negative opinion about a product, I would contact the company and be like, well, thank you for sending me your product to review. So sorry, but I didn't like it because of XYZ. And then people would either try to rectify the problem or tell me to take a hike or whatever they would do. But so the director of Capri College wanted me to come in and check out this guy who lived in southern Iowa, Todd Johnson, wanted me to check out his hair care line. And I was like, I was so annoyed by it because I was sure I had already formed the opinion. I was sure I would hate it. I was sure there was nothing that this guy in Iowa could possibly make that I would love. And I was going to either have to give it a bad review. Oh, thanks, Ray. Or I was going to have to like tell him his product sucked or whatever. I just was sure some guy in Iowa making hair products was messing it up for everybody. So then I went and researched his products online, and then I was even more convinced that they were crap. He was making hair products out of hedge balls. Nothing in this world sounded more ridiculous to me. And I could not find more excuses to get away from what he was trying to sell me. So, and this is the honest to God truth. We set up a meeting to meet, and I canceled about 5 minutes before the meeting. Unlike me, but I had such this gut feeling that I didn't want to go down this path and meet this guy. I later found out that he had driven like 40 minutes to meet me that day so I can interview him. And I blew him off. How rude. Honest to God truth. So, they were relentless though. And they said, no problem, let's reschedule. And I was like, oh my God, are you kidding? Why would we reschedule this? So I pushed it off and I had excuses, and finally, like, it just came to a point where I could not make any more excuses about this stupid shampoo. And I just had to suck it up and go meet with him. Oh, thanks, Lexi. So I finally went and met with this Todd Johnson guy who was making shampoo out of hedge apples. And I sat in this office with the director of Capri College. His name is Chris Fegan, and Todd Johnson. And he starts telling me about his products. And I'm listening, and he's telling me about how he's got this oil and his hair products. And I start listening a little bit more because I am a hair oil junkie. I love oils and hair. So he's telling me about his oils, and I'm listening. And then he starts saying things to me that make my ears perk up, because he starts saying things like that his oil has antifungal and antibacterial properties. And this makes me understand that the more he talks, I'm like, wait a minute, your oil sounds like it's got similar properties to coconut oil. Love coconut oil. But the problem with coconut oil is I put it on my face, I break out. Nothing makes me break out, but coconut oil will make me break out. The other problem with coconut oil is if you ever put it on your hair, you put coconut oil on your hair, and it's like 2 days to rinse out. Yeah, your hair's going to feel great, but it takes 2 days to get it to wash out. So I'm like, what? Okay, so you're telling me you have an oil that's like coconut oil, but it's much lighter? And he's like, well, yeah. And I'm putting in this hair products, and it's great. And we get to talking, and he starts talking like really nerdy talk. Like he starts talking about how the molecular structure of his oil, and this is totally getting me keyed up and very excited about it. And so I point blank asked him, I'm like, why do you have your oil and hair care products? And he was like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, I feel like, oh, do try his hair care products. They're amazing. So I'm like, well, I feel like hair care products is great, but hair's dead. Why are you putting an oil that has this many amazing properties on dead things? That seems really silly to me. Why wouldn't you put it in skincare? And he kind of shrugged his shoulders and was like, well, I don't really know how to get it into skincare. And at this point, I had signed up with LimeLight about a week prior. I didn't have my starter kit yet, or if I did, I hadn't used it yet. I can't remember. I can't really recall. But I wasn't sold on LimeLight yet. And so I just kind of shrugged my shoulders, and I was like, well, I don't know how to get into skincare. I'm a cosmetologist. I'm a hairstylist. Like, I don't do skincare, so good luck to you. And but I'll review your hair care products. And I did, and I gave him a great review, and he was really happy about it. So fast forward about a week. And this is why you have to just pay attention to the path that you're on and trust that it's all going to work out in the end. So I had tried Todd's hair care products. I loved them. I thought they should have been in skincare, but I wasn't convinced yet, nor did I understand what LimeLight skincare meant. I didn't understand that it was all natural and chemical free. I just barely got it in my hands and was not even really using it at that point. However, Kate Johnson was having a launch party in Chicago. She was having this like launching LimeLight in Chicago event where they were having like in the afternoon they were having like a customer event, and then in the evening they were having an opportunity event where you could come and learn more about joining LimeLight. And I had already joined under Kathy Aragon, and I thought, okay, if I'm going to sell this stuff, I need to hear people talk about it. All I was thinking at that time was, I was the first person in Iowa to sell LimeLight. I needed to be the first one, but I didn't know how to give a presentation. And in order for me to give a presentation, I needed to hear somebody else do it so I could duplicate it. I remember it like it was yesterday too. So Kate and Kat both said, hey, you know, you should come to Chicago. And it was only a 4-hour drive for me. So what, Eric? It was probably, 3 days beforehand we decided to go? It wasn't very long. We got on like hotels.com and made a reservation, and we stayed downtown and we took the girls and we made a little mini vacation out of it. Yeah, remember?
When we signed up, you were all in, and we went all in, and you haven't looked back since.
Well, we did go all in, but I was still pretty skeptical about the products, and I didn't know how to sell them.
We went all in.
So we went to, it was our first time meeting, so we go to Chicago. I got there early. I go to leave, and I got stuck in, that was a gold jacket. It wasn't a blazer, it was a jacket. I still have it, and it's beautiful. It's my Las Vegas jacket, and I love it. I was early, and I was going to be there early, and then I got stuck in Chicago traffic, and I remember being so embarrassed because I showed up to the event like 45 minutes late or something. But luckily, things must have gotten started late. And by the time I got there, they were talking about a little bit about skincare I got to hear about, and I got to hear about makeup application. And I just kind of like put myself in a corner and sat there and watched. And the funny thing I remember from that is at one point I was kind of mingling around, and Kat said to me, she was like, hey, Kendra, you should help her with lipstick. And I was like, I don't know shit about your lipstick. And there was this beautiful woman, and she was African American, and she had tried on Cupcake, and it looked so pretty on her. And she said, I just don't know when I would wear this. And I was like, you should wear it on Tuesday. Sounds good to me. And she bought Cupcake, and I was like, all right, I can sell this. This is good. I got it. So there was a bunch of people milling around, including Kathy Ergon and Michelle Gay, and I met her briefly, and Lisa Compton was there, and her Michigan team was there, and they were like on point, busy moving around and helping people with products. And we left, and we went down to the parking lot. It was in a building where there was just a lot of stairs, and I go out to get in my car, and there stood Michelle Gay, the CEO of LimeLight. And she's standing in the parking lot with a suitcase, like a carry-on rollaway suitcase, and she was very clearly lost, looking around like, where's my ride? So I was like, hey, are you needing a ride to the next event? She's like, well, I think I might. I'm not really sure where my ride is or who I'm supposed to ride with. And that part was really funny to me, and looking back, it's even funnier to me because y'all left her. Lisa, Kat, and Ray are all on this live feed right now, and y'all left her. Just saying. They left her. What was that you just did? Yeah, you are horrible. So they leave her, and I was like, well, do you need a ride? And she said, well, that would be great. So I have this giant SUV, and I load her stuff up, and she gets in the car, and I was then realizing that I was in the car with the CEO of the company. I'm like, oh my God, this is awkward. So I get my GPS up and find the location of the next place, and meanwhile, yeah, you all left the CEO. You should all be ashamed of yourselves. Yeah. No, everybody thought like she went with somebody else. Like everybody was convinced somebody else was taking care of her, and in reality, nobody was taking care of this woman. They were like, "Good luck to you, Michelle Gay in Chicago. Good luck." So, so then she's stuck with the Iowa girl in Chicago. So I put the location of the next place in my GPS, and we start driving. So it's super awkward because we don't know each other. I just joined the company a couple of weeks before this, maybe 10 days before this. I had on probably 3 inches of makeup, at least 3 inches of makeup. No, we were the last ones out, Kat. I was the last one out anyway. I'm pretty sure. Maybe not. Who knows? But anyway, we start talking, and it was super awkward because we didn't know each other, and she mentioned that she had a daughter named Avery, and I was like, oh, I have a niece named Avery, and we just kind of like tried to fill the silence while I'm watching the GPS and trying to get through Chicago traffic in my giant SUV, which is freaking impossible. This is so reality. So, somehow we start talking about the skincare, and she tells me a little bit about the story behind the skincare. And if you're not aware, she had a close family friend, like bestie family friend, BFF family friend, that had triple negative breast cancer, and was pretty convinced that the chemicals in skincare could have been the catalyst for her getting this skincare, or skin cancer, breast cancer. How about that? So anyway, she's telling me the story, and she's telling me that that was the inspiration behind the fact that they have this all-natural skincare. And she's telling me that it was really important for her to have all-natural ingredients and things that were really, really simple. And I don't think so. So I'm not feeling extra gorgeous today, but I appreciate that. So she's telling me all about this ingredients thing, and while she's talking to me and telling me about how she wants the ingredients to be super simple and all natural and blah, 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 like, all of a sudden I hear the same conversation I had just had previously with Todd Johnson while I was learning about his products, right? You remember telling me about that? And I was like, you know, I just met this guy, and I felt like such a schmuck. Let me just, this is another real honesty thing. I was killing silence. I was killing time. I was trying for things to not be awkward. And I was telling her about how I had met this dude in Iowa who was selling shampoo made with hedgeapple oil. That's what I was telling the CEO of LimeLight. It seemed ridiculous to me. And when I say it out loud, it sounds ridiculous today. So I'm telling her, like, you know, I met this guy and he's doing this thing too. And I thought he had, you know, great hair care products, but I told him he should have it in skincare, and, you know, maybe you guys should talk. And she was like, yeah, you know, I'd look into that. And I said, well, you know, I'll send you the link to the article I wrote. And at this point, all I'm thinking is, no joke, all I'm thinking is, I'll get some more hits on my article, because that's how I got paid, y'all. It's not so ridiculous now. I think it's better. So, she was like, yeah, you know, I'd be interested in learning about that from that guy. And I was like, okay. And I really felt like she was humoring me. I was convinced that she was humoring me. We're stuck in a car together. She doesn't even know me. She wants to probably make sure she gets there safe. Of course she's going to humor me, right?
That was 3 seconds away.
Oh, yeah. Apparently my husband's watching me on the computer next door. Or across the table. So, this is about the point that we got lost. This place that we were going to, it is a good story, and I'm pretty honest right now. So Michelle's open-mindedness gets even more amazing, honestly, and I'm going to tell you why. And this is why you need to trust the path that you're on, and you need to just let it happen and stop questioning everything and stop overanalyzing everything. Because I had told Michelle about this. She had told me that she was interested, and and now I'm lost in a giant SUV in, like, tiny little streets of Chicago that are this wide, and my SUV is this wide, and we're lost. I took a wrong turn somewhere, and we're trying to figure out our way to get to this restaurant, and parking is terrible. It's like in the city. I was so embarrassed. It was very embarrassing. We finally find the place. My GPS is screaming at me the entire time to take U-turns and go down wrong ways and one ways and dumb shit like that. We finally find the place and we park, and I think, oh my god, this woman is probably so glad to get out of my car. So she gets out, she drags her luggage and everything else like up a giant hill to get to the restaurant, and you do need to divorce that, Ray. And it's interesting that you said that, because we were texting right before this, and I thought, oh, I hope you watch me tonight, because this is going to be good. So we watched Michelle talk about the history of LimeLight and where she thought it was going, and reliving some of the things that she said to me that night in that dark room. It was so dark in there. The lighting was awful. You couldn't see like people around you. Lisa Compton was sitting kind of catty corner in this restaurant for me, and she was talking to me about the compensation plan, and she was speaking Greek. Like, we were both speaking the English language, but I didn't understand a word of it. She's telling me all about the comp plan and how amazing it is, and how well we're going to be paid, and what the future was holding for us, and that it was going to be amazing. And she was talking about things like dreams coming true, and I was like, that was literally me with my glass of wine, like, okay, you say so. Such a doubter, me. So she's telling me all about that, and I was just watching all of these women, and then she was talking about all the stuff and where she wanted her company to go, and it all sounded great, but I was super skeptical. So anyway, I left that night, and I felt really good about the thanks, Tina. I felt really good about the company and about where I was going with it, and now I knew I could give a presentation. I was going to duplicate what I had heard and go out and sell all this makeup to people, and I did. That was, I believe it was the 4th of April, or right around then, or maybe the very last weekend of March, and I went on to sell. That was my first full month in April. I went on to sell. I had record-breaking sales that month at the time. It isn't now, but it was at the time. Lisa was so life-changing that night. So I went home, and I sold all this stuff, and I knew what I was going to do. And this is where I didn't follow up with Michelle on telling her about that oil, because I thought she was humoring me. I thought she was just hearing me and not wanting to be lost in Chicago with some crazy chick that was talking about hedge apple oil. So she messaged me on Facebook that next morning. I should go back and look at it, because I'm sure it's still there. And she said, hey, do you have that article you told me that you wrote about this guy's oil? And I was like, oh, yeah, here you go. Hey, click. So I sent her the link, and then a little bit later she read it, and she was like, I'm really intrigued by this. Can you send me his contact information? And I was like, okay. So I sent her Todd's contact information. And then the wires went silent. Didn't hear a word about it for like 2 weeks. And about 2 weeks later, Todd Johnson got a hold of me, and he was like, hey, Kendra, I want to talk to you about my wife joining LimeLight. And I'm like, oh, okay. He goes, Michelle says you're the person to talk to. And I thought, I didn't know anything about joining LimeLight at that time. But I said, okay, yeah, we can get together and we can talk. So he said, okay, can you meet me for coffee sometime? So we met in a town kind of in between where he and I live. And we had coffee, me and Todd and his wife, Susan, who is amazing. And if you're coming to the Iowa training, you'll meet her. She's so great. But so we meet and we have coffee, and he was like, hey, I just got to tell you, Michelle got a hold of me, and she wanted to try our oil for her skincare line. And I was like, oh shit. That really went through? And he was like, yeah. He goes, so she sent us some skincare samples, and I sent her a bunch of Pomifera oil, and we're talking about making this a reality. And I was blown away by that. I was like, are you serious? Like, you're gonna put this oil into LimeLight? And he was like, well, yeah, that's kind of what we're talking about. Wouldn't that be great? And I'm like, well, yeah. And he goes, but my wife is thinking about, she really liked the skincare. Michelle sent Susan skincare samples, and she's absolutely loving it. And so were my girls. He's got teenage daughters. So he was like, so we're thinking about selling it. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, here's a bunch of information I had. And here's the funny thing. Like, back then we didn't have a resource library or any real information. So I just printed out like everything that I could ever find on Facebook or anywhere about LimeLight, and I gave him a packet. It had to have been this thick. It was all a mess in different fonts and formats, and some of it was probably really old, and who even knows. It was Hot Mess Express. So I gave him all this information. I'm like, well, go home and review this information and then let me know what you want to do. He's like, okay, sounds good. So they called me about a week later. I didn't follow up because I was too stupid to do that. And he said, okay, I think we're going to join. And I'm like, you are? And he's one of the first, his wife was one of the first people I signed up for LimeLight. And so they signed up, and then I was like, well, we should probably have a launch party for you. So we scheduled her launch party. And she lives in a town about, Todd and his wife, Susan, live in a town probably, what is old? It's probably 90 minutes from here, Eric? Driving maybe 70, 80 miles, 90 minutes. So this is another way that LimeLight is strange, and how you just have to trust the path you're on. So we scheduled it for that night, and a couple of days later, Kat Aragon got a hold of me and said, hey Kendra, are you available on X date for a makeup job for CNN? You guys, I have never worked for a network before, but Hillary Clinton was coming to Iowa City, which is about 30 minutes from where I live. What?
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah, trust the path. You do. You just have to just kind of trust that things are going to be okay, and stop obsessing over what to do and how to do it. So she got a hold of me. She said, hey, you available? Hillary Clinton's coming to Iowa City, and she's going to do her first, it was her very first network interview with a major network since announcing her presidency campaign. It is a good story. I love this story. I'll tell it over and over again. So, yeah, hey, can you lurk on Hillary Clinton? Thanks. She was like, well, I need hair and makeup for the anchor who was going to be doing the interview. And then she's like, I don't know if you'll do Hillary Clinton's hair and makeup or not, but you just need to be on standby for all of that. And I was like, right on. What? Okay. So it happened to be the same day as Susan Johnson's launch party. Susan Johnson's launch party was going to be later that night, but this was during the day. So this was my very first opportunity to do any kind of celebrity work. And I don't think I'd ever worked on any kind of celebrity before that. Probably not. No, nothing I can recall, which is probably nothing. Oh, I'm glad, Jody. So I went to Iowa City, and Kat sent me like diagrams and documents and all this stuff on how to do the anchor's hair and makeup, and I was so nervous about it. But it was a fantastic experience. And then I got to go behind the scenes for the entire interview, and I got to get patted down by the Secret Service and sniffed in all of my bits and pieces by the dogs, and that was fun. And I put some blush on Hillary Clinton and teased her hair a little bit and powdered her nose. And then I watched the whole interview, and the entire time I'm sitting there like, this is awesome. This is a really, really fun thing for me to do. And so I got to do that, and then I left straight from there and went to Todd and Susan's home and did Susan's launch party. And I was on this crazy high, like, what kind of journey am I on right now? And when I got there that night, Todd poured me a glass of wine, and he said, Kendra, this oil that you said needed to be in skincare is going to be in your skincare line. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, you're going to get to sell this stuff. We're going to sell Pomifera oil in LimeLight. And I was like, excuse me, are you speaking English right now? Or gibberish? Or what are you talking about? It's like, yeah, I swear, like, this is going to happen. I talked to Michelle, and we've gone through some of the logistics, and it's super preliminary right now, but this is going to happen. So this would have been in May of 2015. And that's when he told me. And I was like, wow, that's nuts. He's like, it's great. So we were very celebrating, and we had her launch party, and it was super awesome and very, yeah, it really was. He told me a little bit more about One Drop Wonder. I got to meet Todd's daughters. He's got great girls. They're wonderful kids. And, so yeah, we got it in November. So let me just share this little bit with you. Sorry, am I too late, Eric? I told him I'd only be on for 20 or 30 minutes. Is it okay?
No, too late.
Oh, too late. So, that would have been in May of 2015. So in June of 2015, I went to New York City. What? When?
No.
Okay, I'll be in a minute. In June of 2015, I went to New York City on Kat Aragon's dime because she insisted that I make it to this summit that they were having in New York City. And I couldn't afford it. We couldn't afford it. We had just spent and invested all of what we had into my LimeLight starter kit and getting my business started. And the prostitute story was epic. That was a good story. So we'd already invested all of our money, and I told Kat I could not go to New York City. I could not afford it. There was absolutely no way. And she was like, well, I'm going to help you get there. So she did. She paid for it. She paid for my flight to get there. And I remember thinking on my way there, what the hell am I doing? I'm going to New York City in Times Square all by myself. And I had my Pomifera oil with me, and I knew it was already going to be in our line. But so we got there to the hotel, and I remember that night before the summit started, I shared my little tiny bottle of Pomifera oil with everybody in the room, and I was like, you guys, this is somehow going to be in our line at some point. And everybody put it on their hand, and they were freaking out, and they were so excited about it. And that was the next day. Michelle had announced that we were getting Pomifera oil in our line, and at the time they were gonna, okay, so we have an oil called Must Do. At the time they were gonna call it Do Everything, and everybody was like, do everything? No, that's not gonna work. So it ended up being called One Drop Wonder. Do you remember that? Yeah, Sherry, you were one of the people that you put it on the back of your hand, and you were like, this is awesome. And then the next morning you were like, this hand is so much better than this hand. This is where I put that oil, and I'm getting fed up now. So yeah, and I kind of felt like an ass because I shared it with everybody before it was announced, and I was like, oh my god, what if this doesn't happen? And I just said some things I shouldn't have. And it really does do everything, though. It does do everything, but we thought the name Do Everything was confusing. We didn't think that was cool. So, I don't know why, but it just didn't speak to us. So, she announced it, and everybody got a little bottle of it, and people were just losing their minds about that oil and how awesome it was. And I sat in the back of the room. I remember, like, literally on the edge of my seat while everybody reacted to that oil that was coming into our line, because Michelle Day was standing in a parking lot by herself in Chicago and I didn't have anything else to talk to her about because I blew off a meeting for weeks to meet this guy that developed this oil because somebody insisted that I have that conversation over and over and over again with him, because somebody insisted that I keep going down the path that I was supposed to go on. It didn't matter how much I tried to veer off that path. It didn't matter. I tried to veer off the path over and over again. I tried to hate it from the beginning. I tried to, when I told Michelle about it, I tried to blow off her interest in it as humoring me, even though she ended up truly interested. You know, like, it didn't matter it didn't matter the way I tried to steer the ship. It was going to steer in the way that it was supposed to. And it did. And then in November, and if you guys think about this, for a product to go from introduction to production to retail in the span of May to November, in one calendar year, is pretty crazy. Frankly amazing if you really think about it. And the fact that I tried so hard to not let that happen, and if it would have been up to me, it wasn't up to me, but if it had been up to me, it never would have happened. I never would have met with Todd Johnson to begin with. I never would have given Michelle a ride to that restaurant. I wouldn't have talked to her about that product. I never followed up with her. She followed up with me. She didn't have to, but she did. It wouldn't have happened if I didn't just figure that out. And the path was put before me, and I was forced to walk it. I didn't try to walk it. I didn't force it. I couldn't. I tried to make it not happen. It was nuts. And I remember when we had our One Drop Wonder launch party. We had a big celebration, a launch celebration. And Todd Johnson and I put on this little party, and I had pre-orders, so many pre-orders. It was amazing. I have learned an amazing lesson, and this is where hindsight comes in, you guys. I couldn't have predicted any of this. I couldn't have predicted that, and at that time I was so new. I couldn't have predicted that it would have gone the way that it did. I couldn't have predicted that. I just couldn't. It's the only thing possible is that you can look back and say, wow, that's really nuts the way that happened. Oh, thanks, Lisa. I'm glad they all forgot Michelle in the parking lot too. So it's funny, you know, you just, like, I didn't talk to Michelle about Pomifera oil because I thought LimeLight should have it in their line. I talked to her about it because I didn't know what else to talk to her about. And she was talking to me about things that reminded me of that. I don't know, it's just, do you guys get it? Like, it's, so just, don't overanalyze your path. Don't force your path, and don't overanalyze your path. Because hindsight is, my husband's like, wrap it up. And I will. Forget her at LimeLight Palooza. Yeah, just, you know, let your path happen. And trust that you're going to be able to look back and put the pieces together and understand your own puzzle. And that it will all come together in the end. And that that things will have happened the way it would. You can only put it together in hindsight. That's what hindsight's for. That's why hindsight's 20/20. You can't predict the way things are going to go for you, especially if they're going to go great. You can never predict how great they were going to go. It's just about relaxing and letting your spirit take over, and let your words come from within. Agreed. And you have to be willing to, there's still work involved, but the things that are going to happen that are great for you in your life are going to happen because that's where you're supposed to be. I was not driving, and I was scared of the crazy man outside who tried to punch me. Funny to hear you say that. There are two people that keep popping in my feed, and I think they're part of LimeLight, but they're not. It's like they belong with us. Oh, funny. It's just, if it's meant to be, it will be. And yeah, so that's it. That's what I wanted to share with you guys. And it just all came to mind today when I was telling the story to a bunch of old women, and I was being, they're all in their 80s and 90s, and I just wanted to tell them a story that would be entertaining to them, and they were entertained. So that's what I did. So anyway, I am going to go to bed. I've had a great day. My great day really did start today with some perspective, and I really appreciate everybody that shared my quote today, my message this morning. It was truly just something that a thought that was in my heart and in my mind, and the fact that you guys all shared it and validated that you're all kind of feeling a little bit of the same thing. There's a little bit of a funk in the air right now with people and with the world and maybe our country, and it's a confusing time, and there's just a bit of a funk in the air. And I'm glad that the words that I spoke about positivity meant something to you guys, and it meant something to me, and it meant more to me that truly just an innocent thought going through my head when I woke up this morning meant that much to you. To truly in this together. There is a storm brewing. A good storm, though. A really good one. I hope. But yeah, the world's a volatile place right now, and all we can do is be a positive force in it. And I told my kids that today when I was trying to explain racism to them, because they asked me about it. Try to explain racism to your kids. I mean, I'm sure we're all in that same boat right now. And that was really hard. That was a hard conversation to have. And it made me understand why everybody's in a funk right now. Everybody's trying to explain this to their kids, and everybody's trying to understand it, and everybody's trying to make sense of it. And really, we just all need to trust that if we keep a positive mindset and keep on a positive path and be a good example, that it's all going to work out in the end. I will never forget when I was 23 years old, and I was going through a really, really stressful time in my life. A guy that I worked with, I worked as a receptionist and a secretary in this engineering firm, and a guy that I worked with, he came up to me, and I was crying, and he said, "Oh, what's the matter with you? Why are you crying?" And I was like, I'm just having a really hard time understanding this, and I'm having a hard time with my life, and my life wasn't terrible, you guys, but I really thought it was. And he looked at me, and he was like, "Kendra, it's going to be okay. It's all going to work out." And I was like, "Well, how do you know?" And he's like, "Because it has to." And he was right. It has to. We just have to be focused on the fact that it's going to work out. And that's what he told me. He was like, "Just think about it working out. Just think about things going the way you need them to go, and it will bug, and it will go that way." And I was like, okay, it's going to work out. It's going to be okay. And I have thought about that. He has no idea. That man has no idea the impact that he had on me by telling me that things were going to work out if you just focus on them working out instead of on them not. Get away, hearts. That bug literally just tried to dive right straight into my eyeball. I always have a bug collision on my videos. They usually go into my mouth though, so I'm grateful that it went into my eyeball. Oh, Rachel, thank you. Oh, thank the other Rachel. Thank you. It really was a good day, and I hope that we can all like continue to grow from all of this. And if you didn't get to watch this whole video, go back and watch it. Kill him with kindness. Kill Kendra with love. Oh yeah, you will kill me with love and your hugs and, you know, touching and stuff. Oh, thank you, Shirley. Oh, thank you so much. You guys are awesome. All right, well, I better get to bed. I hope you guys have a great night. I will try to get on the treadmill tomorrow. I haven't been on it all week, and so I think tomorrow's probably a good time. My kids are going to spend the day with Grandma tomorrow. Even though, you know what, my kids told me today, they had so much fun today, like working with me. They did like recruiting packets with me, and they went to the nursing home with me, and they, when I put them to bed tonight, they both said independently that they wished that they didn't have to go to Grandma's tomorrow. They wanted to spend the day with me, which both warmed my heart. And I was like, no, go to Grandma's. Like, Kendra needs some time. Yeah. All right, ladies. Oh, I'll tell Eric that you said thank you. He'll appreciate that. Thanks, Tina. Have a great night, guys. I will see you tomorrow.